We have a good group. We can go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Danielle Kirkby, and I am a Partner Success Manager here at ServiceRocket, and I am based in Wilmington, North Carolina. Today, we are going to cover moving to the cloud with confidence and how to navigate complexities to ensure migration success. As mentioned, my name is Danielle, but leading us in today's webinar, we are joined by the amazing Taiwo Ekindele, who is a senior consultant here at ServiceRocket and is based in our London office. Before we dive into the material, I want to share a little more information about us in case you're new to ServiceRocket. For over 20 years, ServiceRocket has been a leading provider of tech-enabled services, helping fast-growing companies in the acceleration of their growth. Our relationship with Atlassian began early on, and ServiceRocket was one of the first users of Confluence and Jira, and the first to offer Jira trainings. We also signed Atlassian's first partner agreement, and our partnership with Atlassian has continued to thrive. You can see here in this map, we have a global footprint and have offices and Rocketeers across the world. We are a platinum solution partner of Atlassian and specialized in both cloud and ITSM. As an Atlassian specialized partner, we've delivered hundreds of successful cloud migrations and transformations on demand. Our expertise delivers on our purpose to be the single most reliable partner in the acceleration of your growth. Now I will go ahead and hand things over to Taiwo. And if anyone has any questions as we go through the webinar, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A or in the chat box, and we will be sure to address them as we go along. Taiwo, take us away.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be talking to you about the topic of today's webinar. I'll just very quickly go over the agenda of things we want to talk about, and we'll get into it. So we'll be starting with an introduction to Atlassian Cloud, and then we'll have a quick discussion about some of the key incentives to make that move to cloud. We'll be talking also about the common cloud migration blockers that many organizations face. And we'll be looking at some tips to overcome these cloud adoption challenges. And of course, we'll have a Q&A session at the very end. But if you have questions as I go over this presentation, feel free to post those questions in the questions box. And Danielle will be moderating throughout the presentation. So, she will be able to interrupt me at any time to post your questions. All right. Next slide, please, Danielle. And next. All right. So what is Atlassian Cloud? So you may be familiar with the suite of Atlassian products. Probably Jira, Confluence, and Bitbucket at least come to mind if you are not familiar with the entire suite. Most of Atlassian products come in a cloud offering. This is a software as a service offering, which means that the services are hosted by Atlassian. Atlassian handles the management of the applications itself. Atlassian will also, set this up, configure it, manage patches, manage updates, and you just, as the end user, will just, focus on the configuration of the products, running your projects, running your business from the apps. So this is what most SaaS offerings look like. This is the what we mean by Atlassian Cloud. Just, I know sometimes some people have a bit of confusion and think about Atlassian Cloud as, oh, I get an AWS account and then I install Jira on it. That's not what we're looking at, but we're looking at a cloud offering that is hosted by Atlassian itself, and where basically you just administer the products from that. You may be aware that Jira, Bitbucket, and Confluence, for example, have server offerings or DC offerings where you install yourself, you're responsible for maintaining and managing the applications. These are different versions of the product. There is a lot of similarities. It's the original code base used to be one, and so there's still a lot of overlap. But it's good to understand that these are still two different. They are now two distinct versions, which means that feature parity across both the cloud and the DC offerings, may become more and more different over time. And we'll explain some of the reasons why as we go along. I think another thing to note here is just to also mention that actually the server offerings for Atlassian products that you might be familiar with, like Jira Server and Confluence Server, are going to be discontinued next year. And Atlassian will be focusing primarily on cloud and then, of course, the data center versions of the product. Next slide, please, Daniel. Right. So what exactly is the trend we see with customer adoption of the cloud platform? Well, on the screen are two key statistics that are provided by Atlassian. And the first on the left is that 95% of customers trying Atlassian products for the very first time actually go for cloud. The other statistic on the right shows that 90% of people who used to use server and have moved to cloud actually recommend the cloud offerings of the product. So if you're considering that move to cloud, it's good to know that you're not alone, that a lot of people are thinking in the same way, and we'll be trying to understand why in the course of this presentation. Next slide, please, then. So why are Atlassian customers choosing cloud? Well, one obvious reason off the bat is the return on the investment made on the platform. There's a lot of costs associated with hosting your own Atlassian application, whether it's Jira, whether it's Confluence, it's Bitbucket. All of those costs translate to savings when you move to Atlassian Cloud. It's apart from the cost in terms of cost of hardware, cost of managing the applications, cost of paying staff to maintain the products. Apart from those costs that you save when you move to cloud, there's also the fact that now you're able to reallocate the time and the resources into more important tasks, into doing your actual business, getting your business off the ground, into doing the things that your business is really about, which also creates value. So this the return on investment is very clearly higher in using the cloud versions of the product than when you're self-hosting. Another primary reason that a lot of people consider in choosing cloud is the fact that most of the features that Atlassian pushes to the products, most of the improvements, most of the innovation actually happens in cloud first. So Atlassian has a cloud first policy in the release of new features. And so what you will find is that over time, there has been a little bit of feature parity between the cloud versions and the self-hosted versions, where the cloud versions are just more feature rich. So if you really want to be at the cutting edge of the Atlassian products, cloud is probably where you want to be. Of course, time to value is an obvious one as well, because especially for people who are moving to the Atlassian platform for the first time, if you want to get up and running really quickly, moving to cloud is a good solution. Just because you don't have to spend a lot of time on planning out the infrastructure and getting the right staff and the right expertise to maintain your own server and environment. So this can really improve the speed of delivering value from the product for your organization. Next slide, please, Daniel. This is a quote from one of the customers who made that move to cloud. And obviously, the observation from their cost analysis showed that, they're spending a lot less per year on cloud than they were in server. And on top of that, they're getting more features and integrations and far less downtime as well, and which makes it a no-brainer choice for somebody who is, still on the fence considering cloud to server. How it impacts in terms of improving your uptime is just considering the fact that if you were on a self-hosted server, for example, every time you need to do maintenance, every time you need to do a patch on the system, could imply downtime. Of course, also, it takes a lot to keep services up and running 24/7, right? All of these are burdens that Atlassian takes care of for you on the cloud platform. And that's the testimony of this customer as well as many other customers that we've spoken with. Just in the course of consulting projects, moving server to cloud, this is the experience of many of our customers that we work with as well. Next slide, please, Danielle. So why move to Atlassian Cloud? We're going to look at, just a wider variety of factors, so that, if you're, at that point where you're making that decision or making that choice between server and cloud, just a little bit more factors that you can consider that may speak more to you, apart from the three obvious ones that generally apply that we've looked at. The first really obvious one is accessibility, right? The Atlassian Cloud offering is accessible to anybody who has an internet connection, right? So, it's particularly ideal if you have widely distributed teams, if you have people who work remotely, if you want to be able to collaborate with, external vendors or contractors, connecting to working on your projects from, different parts of the world. Just the accessibility on the cloud offering is an obvious advantage over a self-hosted application behind your firewall. Now, the next thing we can look at is security, and this may surprise some people because a lot of people still have the mindset that if I'm hosting an application by myself, how can a third party hosting my application for me be any more secure? How is that possible? But you have to look at it from, consider from the perspective of the perspective that Atlassian really puts a lot of resources into securing the application, securing the platform. Atlassian uses state-of-the-art technology practices and governance in general to secure these systems. If you're a small organization, you are very unlikely to be able to match the amount of resources and the dedicated resources that a reputable and big outfit like Atlassian will put into securing their systems. Of course, if you're a large enterprise as well and have your own security teams and you have other products also that you secure successfully and you're quite confident about the environment, another factor to consider in that scenario is the fact that, well, you have your InfoSec or internal security team governing multiple applications, multiple services. They may be very good generalists who, employ best practices across the suite of applications you have. But then you have to think about just the heterogeneous nature of your system. You have different systems. All of them have different requirements. They use different technologies, different, the applications are probably, different platforms. And it's hard to just specialize on providing the top-notch security across all the applications equally. We're in a world now where, the new threats are evolving on a daily basis. new threats to IT facilities and to software, and it's quite a lot to keep up, right? But then if you consider the fact that a platform like Atlassian Cloud has resources just dedicated daily to securing the system, if you consider the fact that there is this homogeneous effort from developers to infra people to just governance to just stay on top of the threats and keeping the application secure, I think you begin to appreciate the argument of why cloud platforms are becoming more secure for more people or more enterprise organizations than self-hosting. Cost savings is an obvious one that we've already talked about. The cost of infrastructure, the cost of maintenance, the cost of paying staff, admin staff to manage system admins, to manage the applications and to keep them up and running. And the implied cost savings also from taking that time that you save or the resources you save from doing infrastructure admin stuff to then, putting that time back into your business, investing that time and resource back into your business as well. Global support is a key highlight of Atlassian Cloud Platform because the platform is supported by 24/7 by a team of engineers from different offices around the world. And so, even if you have, a widely distributed IT team in different offices and can cover all time zones, it's hard to really beat the 24/7 coverage, where at any time you have a critical outage or a critical concern, there is support to take care of you on the platform, which putting that responsibility on your internal IT team will be quite challenging for most organizations. Of course, scalability is built in, just the nature of the platform being a software as a service platform has cloud scalability built in natively, which means in lay terms that as much as your organization grows or as your usage of the applications grow and you require more resources, hardware resources to run the application, the hardware expands to meet that need. So in the server installations in the past, if you outgrow the hardware resourcing that you have allocated to the applications, what that means is an expensive hardware upgrade. Even if you were hosted in the cloud, if you were using the old server installations, what it will mean sometimes, even to increase resource allocation to the systems, is sometimes it could mean a maintenance window. It could mean some outage at time. Maybe even if it's for a few minutes, you may need to bring the service down to upgrade the resourcing for the application. Well, of course, in DC, some of this scalability is coming into DC as well, but with cloud, it's just seamless. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to think about it. The platform just takes care of that for you. And of course, we started talking about the fact that Atlassian is investing quite a lot in cloud, and most of the new features come there first, even if it trickles down to DC eventually. And so there's already some feature disparity between the feature set of the cloud version of the products versus DC. Integrations and add-ons is another natural one, just because of the fact that you probably already have a lot of your services that you use in the organization running in other SaaS platforms running on the cloud. Having another cloud, moving your project or wiki to the Atlassian Cloud Platform allows you to just take advantage of those integrations that are possible and a lot easier, in the cloud. If you have the applications behind your firewall, connectivity to other cloud services, other external services you may have outside of the firewall can be a little bit, more tricky to manage. Of course, there's the reduced IT overhead, just for the mere fact that the whole infrastructure is now Atlassian's responsibility and not yours anymore. Next slide, please, Daniel. This is another quote from another customer who estimated that the impact just from service degradation and outages that they experienced while trying to self-host was costing them $4 to $6 million yearly. And they found their move to cloud to be the best solution that resolved this for them. For if you're currently on server, your numbers may not look exactly like this, but you'll probably be able to identify with the challenge of dealing with, performance issues when you have those outages and, just hardware infrastructure problems, and all the effort it takes to keep services running. The Atlassian Cloud Platform provides a guarantee of a 99.9% uptime. And, that just takes a lot of stress and impact away from the business, when you don't have to worry so much about this kind of unexpected outages that come together with self-hosting. Next slide, please, Daniel. So we've talked a lot about the merit for moving to cloud. What are some of the things we hear from customers regarding challenges with considering that move to cloud? What are the common migration blockers? Well, one very common one, and this usually comes from customers who have been on server for a very long time. They know when the cloud platform was introduced, and they're very familiar with the initial restrictions that were on cloud at the beginning. And so they say, oh, we do have really large amount of data. We understand that there are limitations on the cloud platform to the sizing of the applications. Well, the good news is that a lot of these limitations are obsolete now. For the past few years, Atlassian has been really working hard on removing those limitations. And what you'll find now is that, for example, with the premium cloud plans, you have unlimited data storage. Even for the standard plans, you still have very generous amount of data storage, up to 250 gigabytes. If you think about it, hosting applications that have 250 gigabytes of data by yourself can be quite an expensive and complex infrastructure to keep up and running, right? But the standard plans all, allow up to 250 gigabytes of storage, and the premium plans are unlimited in terms of data storage. So, size is no longer a strong reason not to, consider cloud, actually. In terms of how many users you can have using the cloud versions of the products, this limit has recently been increased to 35,000. It used to be 25,000 for a while. But the story there basically is that Atlassian is continuously improving that. So that's already at 35,000. If you by any chance run any of the Atlassian products on server right now with 35,000 users, you can imagine how big that is, how expensive and how challenging that is to run. So, it's quite a big win that you can now move that to the cloud. Of course, the performance at scale or scalability we're talking about due to the elastic nature of the cloud is, just another argument for, being able to get better performance from cloud than, the traditional server installation. Next slide, please. Another challenge that some customers bring up is the complexity of their data. We've helped a lot of customers move to cloud. Some of them, have had their applications running for over a decade. And so you're looking at, sometimes 12, 13 or more years of, accumulation of data and, configurations, projects, and they just feel that the complexity is going to be a nightmare moving to cloud. Well, there's a couple of things that actually help to address this challenge that we can talk about. And there are some things that you can do as if you find yourself in that situation where you're just worried about the complexity and how smooth will the move to cloud be. You want to take stock of your current infrastructure well in advance of your move to cloud, right? One of the things we do for our customers is we actually offer a free of charge fit for cloud assessment, where we take stock of your current landscape, take a look at the projects you have, take a look at the apps, marketplace apps that you have, the integrations you have, what customizations you have, and do a risk assessment for you about, the viability of moving all of that to cloud on a high level. And we give you a report, of the viability of moving to cloud. This can really help improve confidence for a lot of people. And you can, do this proactively, well in advance of your actual migration to kind of help improve the confidence about what is possible. We do assessment about the apps you have, the compatibility for cloud. All of that is, can be really helpful for you. Obviously, finding the right solution partner is a key aspect of this. You want to work with a solution partner that has experience actually migrating to cloud. We are migrating almost every weekend. We have teams in different regions of the world and, customers from everywhere. And, every weekend or every other weekend, there's a cloud migration going on. So we do have a lot of experience with this. We've been doing this for years. While a lot of people are moving to cloud now, because, the server, the discontinuation of the server licenses, but actually, people have been moving to cloud for, since we've had cloud as a service. And so we've been doing this for quite a long time. It's not new to us at all. And finding the right solution partner can also help to relieve some of that stress and really help simplify the problem for you, because now you just need to focus on, getting your team ready and, have a partner like us take care of the heavy lifting for you, right? Of course, Atlassian also has provided a suite of tools to help with the migration assistance. For example, for enterprise customers with even more complex or larger data, there are also there's some additional tooling that we can take advantage of from time to time, especially as partners. We do have access sometimes to some early access solutions that can help with the migration to cloud. Of course, we also have some in-house developed tools and scripts that help with some of the complexity as well. So those are just some of the things that could help you address this problem of migration complexity. Let's look at another. Yep. Now,
How long does a typical cloud migration take?
so it depends on the size, obviously, of data you're migrating. But migrations could be from 2 months to 3, 4, 6 months. It depends on the size, right? It also not just the size of what we're migrating, it also depends on the business, it depends on the organization. So another factor to put in place is, is everybody equally ready to move? So for example, some customers may want to have a gradual approach to the migration, and so we could spread it out over months just because of that. So yeah, but a primary factor will be the size. For very small migrations, in a couple of weeks to 2 months, you could be up and running in the cloud already.
Awesome. And then we do have a question in our Q&A. The question is, can we migrate all current plugins we are currently running, like Fisheye and Crucible?
So the question mentioned plugins, but then it mentioned Fisheye and Crucible, which standalone applications are not plugins.
Not. Yeah.
So
we
apps.
can ask the person that asked that. If you want to add a little more specifics around what you mean, that would be super helpful. But yeah, Taiwo, go ahead and give us.
I could attempt.
Yeah.
So with plugins, yes, we do migrate plugins. Some plugins may have a cloud-ready version that you could migrate into. Having a cloud-ready version is a different thing from having a migration path to migrate data from server to the cloud-ready version. So some vendors, some app vendors, for example, may have a cloud-ready version, but no migration path. And we do a lot of things to help customers in between this. We could come up with some solutions to, migrate the data. Sometimes we could help, with transformation to move those apps in server that don't exist in cloud to other alternative solutions in cloud. We do a lot of things, in that space with respect to apps. Now, when it comes to other Atlassian apps, if you're, because Fisheye and Crucible was mentioned, Fisheye and Crucible don't have cloud versions. However, there are still alternative options to consider in the Atlassian cloud ecosystem. For example, Bitbucket. You may be looking at a little bit of a digital transformation in that respect, if you're moving from Fisheye and Crucible, which is something we also help with. So, you may be looking at moving your development tools to, for example, Bitbucket. It does, of course, because, we're looking at, moving to a Git system. So there may be a little bit more involved in that, which, has to do with transforming the way your teams work, but also helping your team make that journey from, the old way of working to, the future. Your future state is part of what we do. We come to understand how your teams work, and we help them bridge that gap between how they work today and how things will work a lot better for them in the future state of the cloud products. So that's also a journey that we help customers with.
Yeah, and Taiwo, the attendee that asked that question also mentioned that they do have Bitbucket and Confluence. So
yeah. So I hope I answered the question though.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I do have another thought, Taiwo.
Yep.
In your experience, if there is a team or an organization that doesn't have a lot of in-house experience with cloud, what do you think the next steps would be to get started?
So is this somebody moving from Atlassian products on server?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I will talk a little bit about this in a subsequent slide, but since you asked the question, I think just the short answer will be that planning for this gap in expertise is part of the process, right? I think in subsequent slide, we'll look at some of the ways in which we help customers bridge this gap as well with some of our other services like training, and just proactive communication, from the team management perspective. But this has to be part of the migration strategy. But yeah, this is something that comes up as well as a concern for moving to cloud.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, if we go further along the slides, we'll be talking a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Oops.
All right. Yeah, so this is a big one, right? I started talking about this already, about people who may find it difficult to understand how moving their data to an Atlassian platform could be potentially a security upgrade to self-hosting. Well, Atlassian has state-of-the-art governance when it comes to dealing with data, and also a lot of transparency on their how they handle customer data. All of this is available on their website. If you go to www.atlassian.com/trust, for example, you would be able to see elaborate details about how Atlassian manages security, how they handle data, how they secure the code, and what are the kind of certification or governance that they have in place. But generally speaking, as I was mentioning before, they have dedicated, specialized resources for this. The platform as well, a platform like AWS, for example, has, state-of-the-art practices and facilities to secure cloud, a cloud environment that is very hard to match by an organization that specializes in something else, but just happens to have a very advanced, IT team or, internal security team. It still won't be comparable. What are the ways in which Atlassian secures, ensures that your usage of the products in cloud is secure? Obviously, encryption, standard encryption practices enforce across board to secure, your transfer of data between you and the Atlassian servers. Of course, access controls, highly configurable user and group administration is built into the products. And you're able to very flexibly configure a high level of governance in all the Atlassian products. Of course, modern methods such as multi-factor authentication, things that are all supported. If you have some, governance from your identity provider, or have SSO that you already use in other aspects of your business, this is supported in the cloud as well. You would be able to, put your access your cloud instances via your via SSO, just like you do for any other application you have, whose access is managed by your IDPs. So, a lot of the popular IDPs are supported, whether from Microsoft to, Okta, Google, or whatever you may have. Of course, Atlassian puts a lot of investment and resources into achieving high compliance standards and certifications. So you see the burden of meeting whatever ISO requirements that your business that is mandated for your business. Whatever are the local compliance requirements that you need to meet, Atlassian supports quite a good range of the popular compliance requirements for most organizations. And you can find this also, detailed documentation about, what is supported on the Atlassian website. Atlassian.com/trust is a good place to start for this as well. You can see all the certifications that they keep up to date and that have been achieved by the Atlassian platform. The incident response, when there is, like some vulnerability advisory, the Atlassian has very good incident response to this as well, and have a record of dealing with this very quickly in the cloud. You have to think about if you use server, you probably can relate with the fact that once security advisory comes out, the responsibility on applying the fix is on your admin team. Yes, Atlassian may provide an advisory with guidance on how to implement a patch or what version to upgrade to mitigate your exposure to this risk. But at the end of the day, the responsibility is on you and on your team. You have to provide the resources. You have to have the time to actually implement the change or perform the upgrade when there is a security advisory. But in cloud, this is usually even before the advisory is fully broadcasted. Atlassian has already sometimes, if it's something that affects cloud, would have applied the fix in cloud immediately, right? And that's just another way in which running the applications in cloud can be more secure, just that incident response factor. Let's look at another concern. And this, I think, is already beginning to overlap a little bit with what we were talking about earlier when Danielle asked the question about maybe gaps in expertise. Obviously, we're looking at resistance to change on this slide. And this is the fact that maybe you may have some teams who have been using a particular product for a very long time. They do not want to make that switch to, Atlassian products, or they're on server, they're comfortable there, they like the control, they have to managing the application themselves, and a little bit reluctant. Your IT team, for example, maybe they're a bit reluctant in moving to cloud and managing the products in cloud. So what are the ways in which we help customers with this challenge? Well, we recommend that you have a communication plan. What this usually entails is that you help, your IT team or the impacted teams whose workloads or projects may need to move to Atlassian Cloud, help them understand the journey, help them understand what the process will be like. Try to provide as much information as you can to them. So for example, if it's a move from server to cloud, Atlassian has quite detailed documentation on the differences between server and cloud. Help them to understand these differences. Help them to understand the roadmap. How do you want to move? Is this going to be a gradual move? Is it going to be a big bang? Have a communication plan. Obviously, another very important thing is to, initiate some training. Most of the popular Atlassian Cloud products have elaborate user as well as admin training, and that you can take advantage of. ServiceRocket provides a lot of these trainings, and this is obviously another area where a partner like ServiceRocket can really help to help you on that journey of migrating to cloud. One very useful thing you could do as well is implement pilot projects. Say to this development team that, hey, okay, we have this small project coming up, this couple of new projects coming up. Why don't we pilot running these projects in the cloud. This is one of the ways in which, when we talked about, getting value quickly from cloud versus server, this is one of the places where the move to cloud makes a big difference over server. Because, for example, if you were moving from another tool, another development tool or issue tracker to Jira, for example, if you chose cloud, running a pilot project in cloud is, really quick. You can get started with, there's a lot of project templates that you can take advantage of and get started really quickly if it were in cloud. If you wanted to run pilot projects in Jira Server or DC, you'll need to first deal with the infrastructure, and get that up and running. And that's just a lot more work for you to get there. But this is one of, the ways in which we say, cloud is just more accessible, and can, get you up and running a lot quicker. So implement pilot projects, encourage your team to, just try out a small project on the cloud tool. If they're moving from server, this also helps them to kind of like see what's the differences in, the UI and build up their expertise and their confidence. And this will expose them to the new features, that are available in Jira Cloud that may actually help you sell the product to the end users, right? Keep employees.
We do have a question that came through. So I apologize. I did wait because I didn't want to interrupt you. The question is, are you FedRAMPed?
I believe this is so the question is that to ServiceRocket and our services, or is this more to the Atlassian cloud platform?
It's not specific, but
I'm assuming. I think I have. So I think I've come across this question before, I believe, but I don't know from the top of my head. This is something I'm sure this is a governance issue or a compliance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the compliance. I do not know from the top of my head. I can. I think this is something that we could get back to.
Yeah, the person who asked is anonymous, so I don't know if the person who asked wants to send me a direct message with your email address. We can definitely get back to you on that.
Sorry, I didn't have that answer from the top of my head.
No, it's okay, Taiwo. You are a wealth of knowledge in many ways. It's okay to have one question slip by. Okay, I will. Yeah, if, like I said, if the person who asked that wants to send me a direct message, that would be helpful, and we'll follow up with you.
Yeah. So yes, we were saying, right, keeping employees engaged in the decision-making process does help, being transparent about, the implications of the move to cloud. And of course, doing it gradually is a key strategy as well. A big bang approach may not be suitable for all forms of, for all organizations, especially if you're an enterprise organization with really mature business projects running on server. A more gradual approach to your move to cloud may be more appropriate. And this is something we accommodate quite frequently with a lot of our customers. Let's see what the next blocker for.
Yeah, and Taiwo, I just want to do a friendly time check. We are running close to the hour mark, and I know that we do have quite a few slides left. So just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, I'm sure I could speed this up a little bit. Yeah. So, some customers may say, hey, we have legacy applications and dependencies that are all on premise, all on server, and moving to cloud may make these integrations a little bit more difficult. Well, there are several opportunities here that we've helped many customers navigate. One is that, we can help look at the compatibility of integrating, the existing dependent legacy applications you have on premise. We can help you look at, okay, what exactly will be the challenges with integrating them with cloud. There's some digital transformation opportunity here as well, because, for example, customers who have very old servers may have dependencies that may be obsolete for cloud. For example, features or functionality that already now overlap with features existing in cloud. So there might be opportunity to, review those processes and transform them into something that is existing in cloud or that is more compatible with the cloud offerings of the products. And this overlaps with refactoring or rebuilding as well. This goes, as I was saying previously, for apps that are not supported in cloud, but maybe that you use in server, or custom apps that you build for server. We could help refactor some of this to what is supported in cloud as a way to move forward. So this is a problem that we've addressed for many people as well. What's the next? I think next slide, please, Daniel. So if we could just bring all of this together as we wrap up, the tips for overcoming the cloud adoption challenges. We've talked a lot, that basically translates to having a sound cloud migration strategy. We talked about the Fit for Cloud assessment that we offer free of charge to customers who are looking to move from server to cloud, particularly, where we help access your current state and look at your apps, look at the size of your server instance, the complexity, and help you estimate the effort to move to cloud. This is another tip that helps. Testing early with a pilot project to help your team really understand the difference in the experience in cloud versus server, and also to expose them to some of the new features. Communicating proactively to prepare your team for the changes. Properly addressing the security and compliance concerns. If you have security requirements or data residency requirements that have kept you in server, really understanding whether there's still an issue in your move to cloud is something that is worth looking into. For example, Atlassian Cloud now provides some data residency options. You can pin your data to certain regions now. I am based in the UK, for example, and for a while, customers have been asking for being able to have their cloud data pinned to the UK. There is data residency already available in Europe, and having one in the UK is in the roadmap. I think Atlassian already has some investments in services in Ireland that will help those customers in the future, for example. So this is constantly changing, and talking to a partner or talking to Atlassian about what your specific security concerns are early may actually help you realize that you have opportunity, to move to cloud that may have not been there a few years ago. And of course, we've talked about all of the ways in which finding the right solution partner can be beneficial. The next slide, Daniel. All right, so just in time, we've come to my last slide before I give it back to Daniel. So we've talked about all the ways in which finding the right solution partner can make your cloud migration journey a lot more successful and stress-free. So why ServiceRocket in particular? Well, ServiceRocket has a well-proven cloud migration methodology at this point that aligns very closely with Atlassian's migration methodology. We have an elaborate assessment phase, where we take stock and develop a plan, a migration plan for your users, for your apps, and for your data that is specific to the kind of data you have, the kind of apps you run, and the kind of unique situations you may have with your user base. We have a preparatory phase as well, where we do dry runs and do a lot of testing. And the test phase, we don't do any migrations without adequate testing. We have elaborate testing process where we work with you to validate your most critical business processes in cloud before the actual production migration takes place. So obviously, we'll be able to do any migration much quicker than you would be able to do by yourself. So you can really accelerate your migration by going with ServiceRocket. And of course, our 20+ years of experience doing as an Atlassian partner does come to bear, and it's hard to match. Over to you, Danielle.
Sorry, my mouse went a little haywire there for a second. Didn't mean to skip around on the slides, everyone.
I know I was, eating into time too much. So
Thank you so much, Taiwo, as always. And this is just a kind of catch-all slide that we wanted to share with everyone, just to kind of reiterate all of the different avenues that we'd be able to help you as your most reliable partner. We have worked with a slew of customers in all of these different functions and have had really great success. And on that note, just to share a few other resources, I wanted to mention these two ServiceRocket white papers that I believe most of you will find very useful, especially on your cloud migration journey, regardless of where you might be in that journey. So just wanted to point that out. And then also open the floor. I know we had some questions come through during the presentation. Thank you so much for those. But if anyone does have any other questions, we do have 2 minutes. So we are right under the bell in case anyone has anything else that they want to cover. It doesn't look like... Oh, got it. Okay, so there was a question around who to contact with the migration. Great question. We are happy to help you with that. If interested in reaching out, please feel free to send an email to sales@Atlassian, oh my goodness, sales@ServiceRocket.com. But I see that you also shared your email with us, so I will make note of that, and we will definitely be in touch with you very shortly to help you on your journey getting to the cloud. And now we have 1 minute left. So, oh yeah.
I thought I just did a quick lookup on FedRAMP. So this is a US specific compliance thing, and there is a page on the Atlassian website that covers this. Since we don't have the details of the person who asked the question, I think it's just fair to say if you could just Google Atlassian FedRAMP, you probably find the answer to that question.
Awesome. Thanks for doing that quick search, Taiwo. But yeah, so thank you everyone for attending. And like I said, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us at sales@ServiceRocket.com. And we are happy to address any questions that you have. And otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful day. And thank you again, Taiwo.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.